Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TICKETLIQUIDATOR.com. Ticket Liquidator.
Marriott's on the move.
What?
Marriott's on the move.
Again?
Marriott's on the move.
If you're dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving. Welcome, everybody. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So right now, clearly I'm not in my home office. I'm doing the season 2 teaser, but I'm actually at the Podcast Movement podcasting conference. I didn't even know this was a thing. So I do have notes. So you'll see me looking down at my notes because I'm typically partially scripted from a podcast perspective because I like to make sure I get all the information out to you. But I'm also someone that goes on tangents a lot. So want to make sure that I'm, on par, on what's the word? I don't know. Now I'm nervous. But so the Podcast Movement is this really cool podcasting conference. I guess they've been doing it for many years now, where you go through all kinds of different tracks. So just like a conference that you would go to for technology or healthcare or whatever it is, whatever your intention is, you could do a lot of different things, like go through the technical track where they're like teaching you the setup. So like this particular setup is like a setup in a box. There's a company that is selling this, but they, a lot of different news media or medias use it. And so this particular network is called Yap Media. So they are a network that has all kinds of different podcasts. I mean, I will put some things out there, but like the Habits and Hustles, We Study Billionaires, Millennial Investing. It's the number one business and self-improvement media network for podcasters. So it's really cool because obviously that's kind of my jam, is teaching you how to be a better, smarter mover. So there's all kinds of different tracks, like the technical track, like I mentioned, how to monetize your podcast if that's what you want to do, how to, do marketing better from a social media perspective, keeping your brand safe. That I didn't even know was a thing. That's another thing out there that they talk about. So all kinds of really cool panels that I've had the opportunity to sit in on, ask questions to literally the experts in the podcasting world. So I have just been giddy the whole time I've been here. Like, this is like my jam. I think anybody that knows me knows that I love the camera. I love talking. I love to teach and inform, and I love to really just leave my legacy that way. That's like kind of what I'm thinking anyway, because I don't have children. Anyway, so let's get started. So if you're new to the show and just checking out this trailer for the first time, my name is Mariette Fry. I have moved 18 times in the last 23 years to 5 of America's top cities. And essentially what I talk about is everything from moving, like tips, tricks, and scams to avoid, that part of it. But I'm a planner. So I'm a certified life coach. I'm a certified professional organizer. I have a personal finance certification through Dave Ramsey's organization, who is also one of the sponsors here. They're sponsoring the Wi-Fi, which is really cool because their handle, like if you follow Dave Ramsey, cash is king is what his whole moniker is, and the Wi-Fi password is cash is king, but the Wi-Fi network name is debt is dumb, which obviously he's not a fan of debt at all. But so it's neat. So what I do, the approach that I take with my podcast is I like to teach people a year or two before they make a big cross-country move how to get prepared for that. So it's not just like what boxes to use and tape. And of course, I've got my favorites of everything. So I'm 100% able to, kind of give you the lowdown logistically speaking. And I've befriended a lot of movers across the country. I like to vet them out. I actually am even considering having a membership in a directory of movers that I have personally talked to, that I know that they're good people. They're not going to scam you. They drug test their moving, contractors, or, they have W-2 employees, all that stuff. But really what I love to do is talk through my FRED framework. FRED is an acronym for finances, robustness, so think mental and physical health, ecosystem, and dreams. And essentially when I'm coaching somebody through, what is an impending big move, we start with the dream and then we reverse engineer into your finances for that dream, right? So if you want to move to New York City, what do you need to know? Like, how do you rent an apartment? Do they allow you to do that, from remote? Or do you have to have 10 times your income, which equals, what the rent is? There's all kinds of different tricks for all different cities, all different states, all kinds of things. So we reverse engineer you into that dream by preparing you for that particular thing through your finances, through your robustness. So like mentally and physically, are you strong enough to move right now? Like I'm looking at, I'm considering moving again from Charlotte. So I live Charlotte, North Carolina right now. But my robustness is incredibly important right now because I just am healing and almost completely done with three ruptured discs in my back. 3 months ago, I wouldn't have even considered moving because I just physically couldn't even pick up a box, much less feed my dogs. So that's incredibly important. And then, the ecosystem. So using my example, I'm very lucky that I have a great support system in Charlotte right now. My brother's there. I have some amazing neighbors like Ashley and Karen and Elizabeth and, Lynn. We've got a bunch of people that are always willing to help. But in the ecosystem is really important, especially if you're moving to a new city that you don't know anybody. So like, how do you meet friends? What does it have to have, doctor-wise, school-wise? Like, what does it have to have for you to thrive? And then we do some actual like proofs of concept. So I call it a city POC. And it's where you go to that city that you've been dreaming about. And some people have been holding on to a dream of like moving to San Diego or moving to Texas for 30 years without having to actually explored it. They don't know if that's still the dream, right? So we go through, the city POC where you go and spend a year, that would be moving. You go and spend a week or two in those cities, maybe at an Airbnb or at a hotel in a couple different areas within the city. And you figure out where your ideal place to live is in that particular city. And sometimes people come away from the POC and they're like, you know what? I didn't want to live on that side of the city at all. Like, I didn't even realize that that's where everybody told me I should go, but I like it over here. And I wouldn't have known that had I just like picked a place and moved. I've got several cases. One of my coworkers actually says that I saved him $90,000 because they were going to put down on a house, and they ended up doing the POC and didn't love that area and moved completely across town, actually to another smaller town. But now they have big, land and moving in September. They're super excited. So, the framework that I use, I've been using it for years. I didn't fully vet it out and put it into like an actual framework until about a year or two ago. But I know that those are the 4 areas that if you're not tight in when you're going to move, it's not going to work out. It's at some point you're going to get I call it the 6-month funk, where you just are like, what did I do? I sold my house. I left my friends and family. I don't love it here as much as I thought I would. I could have just stayed for a month and gotten my fill and then left and not wasted all that money and time and stress and all that stuff. Because they say moving is the number 2 most stressful event in someone's life, only to divorce. That's insane, right? So I do want to talk a little bit about what is coming up on the podcast, but I'd be remiss if I did not mention some of the reviews that I've gotten, some of the feedback I've gotten, some of the suggestions I've gotten, and just some of the loyal fans that I've had that I love, that listen, and I want to mention them. So my favorite review that I got was from Heather Cox. So thank you, Heather. You just wrote a beautiful review for me about, moving and you were heading out to that city and that somebody suggested the podcast to you. And so I'm grateful that you listened. I'm grateful that it was helpful. I want to thank Megan Luke, who is the daughter of a friend of mine, Natalie Luke. She's an up-and-comer golfer. I guarantee she's going to be in the LPGA one day. She's actually looking at colleges now, so I know I'm a little early, but like Tiger started out when he was young, so did Megan. And she's just the sweetest, and she is flying under the radar right now, and I know she's going to crush it out there in tournaments this year. So, any LPGA, any college prospectors, you look out, because she's gonna be up there in the ranks, I guarantee it. And then my mom graciously has listened to every episode. She gives me a full write-up of, suggestions and things that she loved and things that maybe she could probably do without. But she's been loyally listening. And I'm so grateful for everybody that's listening. I don't even know how many downloads I have per show. I probably should start looking and tracking the data. But it's been so nice. And one of the suggestions that my mom gave me is that I need to put my podcast on YouTube. And for those that don't know, I'm deaf in the 400 to 500 megahertz area in both of my ears. That's why I wear hearing aids. I had tinnitus really bad. The hearing aids these days are so innovative that they can tune just to where I'm deaf. And that when I'm wearing the hearing aids, I don't hear the humming or the tinnitus. And your brain is so fantastical that it actually, helps to fill in that portfolio of sound. And that's kind of what happens when you have tinnitus. So I want to be able to, anybody that has more hearing loss, I want them to be able to read in caption and maybe see me as I'm actually doing the podcast right now. And I want to be able to let anybody who, a lot of people like to listen to podcasts and watch that person like you're doing right now. So that's my goal for this year, is to get season 1, potentially as many of those episodes as I can. I think there's 13 with the trailer. So get as many episodes as I can of that up. Shorties won't be up there because I didn't film myself recording those. I just recorded them. But I'm going to be doing that for this next season. So hopefully, at Podcast Movement, they had a lot of tracks, like I said, from a technical perspective. And we did get to hear the product lead for YouTube podcasts yesterday. That was a really interesting session about what's coming down the road for YouTube, how they're changing their kind of market through podcasting, the algorithms changing to suit podcasts, because a lot of people are putting this up. So everybody that I've talked to here at the conference is podcasting is still in its early stages. This is going to get more robust as we go through all the different layers that are coming up. Different, networks are doing different cool things, brand advertisers, just a lot of really neat stuff coming. So I'm excited to be a part of this industry because it's just my people. I think that's the one thing that's been so fun about this conference is literally talking to people who get it. It is hard to produce a podcast, especially as an independent. That's what I'm considered right now. I literally am in such a niche that I'm the only moving podcast out there from what I understand. Some of the guests that we'll talk about today that I have for season 2 have podcasts about moving, but they're for movers. So there's not really a relocation podcast out there. I could be wrong. This is what I'm being told. So I'm super, super niche, but I also in the education space, I'm going to be doing some big things. So I'm working with some colleges to get on the circuit and go in front of these college students before they leave and teach them how to prepare for a move. They're getting out of college soon. They're, some of them will go back and stay with their parents for a couple of years, save money, which I completely recommend if they're in a situation that they can do that. But how to get scrappy, save for a move, but then build a foundation. So wherever you move, you can thrive. And sometimes that's missed in the equation. So I do want to go through, my notes and what I got here. So, we've been talking about Podcast Movement. It's kind of random how this happened. So being a new podcaster, the folks at Podcast Movement actually found me. sent me an email and asked if I wanted to enter a drawing for a free ticket. And I actually won. It's so random. Like, I never put myself in for raffles. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just never have. And I entered 2 raffles that day. One was for the free ticket and one was for a hot seat with Jasmine Star. So if you don't know Jasmine, she is a marketing guru. She's the CEO of a software as a service company around AI. And she's just helping content creators like me put things together in a way that speaks it in our voice, but also gives us that automated assistant to, to move forward. So I got to sit on a hot seat with her and ask her a question. I mean, I don't know if she does one-on-one coaching, but if she does, I know it's very expensive because she's amazing. She's just got the energy that I wish I had. She's just so much fun. So in the same day, I won both of these things, and I was able to come out here because my friend Piper, who also listens to my show, so thank you, Piper. She put me up for the week. It just so happens she lives 15 minutes away. Like, what are the chances? So I got a free ticket. The tickets are over $300, so it was huge. I got a free place to stay. I have miles from all of my travel, so I use miles to get here on American Airlines. Outside of like food and like literally like drinks and whatever is here, I had paid for nothing, and this has been so valuable to me. It's been so fun just being around like people that are like-minded like me. That I love this ecosystem I'm creating. So it's just been really neat. So thank you to Piper. Thank you to American for having a very generous miles program. And thank you to everybody that I've met here today. Everybody also, like I have asked them for their suggestions on podcasts because I'm an avid podcast listener. I've always been. I've spent so much time in my car as a field rep that I'm always down for a cool podcast. And I have gotten some really, really cool suggestions that I will at some point put out there. But yeah, it's been really cool. Like I met a woman yesterday who does the Dog Mentality podcast, which is a super niche podcast like me. She, her tagline was something like, you should play with your dog, not your mental health, or something like that, which I loved. I'm gluten-free. She did a podcast about celiac and having a dog where she interviewed somebody. She's connecting me with some of the people that she's talked to. She did a whole series. I think it's on Spotify, but it's 4 different episodes about moving with your pet, which is incredibly important to me. Obviously, I just lost Emmy Lou a couple of weeks ago, which I'm still, grieving and devastated about, but I still have Carter. And if I, am considering him in the move, which I've always considered my dogs, I try to, pack and get the boxes out in the garage and a staging area so they don't have to see it and they don't have to get nervous because obviously we're going to bring them with me. But yeah, so there's so many cool podcasts. There's one, a guy named Jeremy is doing one called When Walls Talk, which I'll talk about. I'm going to have him on the podcast in season 2, along with my aunt, Dorianne Dupre. She is the coffee psychic. We've got the spooky season coming up, so I want to talk about what happens when you move into a haunted house. I may personally be experiencing that and have experienced that in the past, and it is no bueno. But let's talk a little bit. Let's take a brief look in the rearview mirror. If you haven't listened to season 1 of the podcast, when I first started the podcast, the advice that I got from a lot of people was like, listen, you just got to start. It's going to suck. You're going to sound terrible. You're going to feel like a spaz. You're going to get through these interviews. You're going to be sweating and you're going to be like, oh, I wish I would have asked him this. I wish I would have asked him this. And you're going to be so into your head. Like, just start. Get the podcast episodes out there. After a while, nobody's going to listen to them. Just put them out consistently. Get some information out there that's evergreen. You can always pull them later if you don't like them and you want to start over. But in the first 6 sessions, I had so many tech challenges. So one of the first person that I was interviewing was Ali Wensky, who is the Art of Happy Moving author, who is a lovely human being. She is in the north suburbs of Chicago. She's a real estate agent. But her book, I I don't really want to write a book. Everybody has encouraged me because I have so many stories. I'm obviously a storyteller. I have so many stories about all my moves, like everything from being held hostage, or not me being held hostage, my stuff being held hostage, to great moves where I was like happy moving and like took videos and danced with my movers. I mean, like there's been all extremes in my moves. But she's got a book that, you know, all the tips and tricks that I would ever give you, they're in there, you know. And she talks about moving with children. I don't have children, but she's moved, I think it was something like 11 times in 10 years or something like that. But now she does a lot of things that other real estate agents can really learn from in their markets. Like she does welcome sessions and she throws parties for her, you know, the people that are relocating into that city so they meet people. Like that's what you want a real estate agent to do. And I have Laura Sinclair on Instagram. Well, for Ali Wensky on Instagram, she's Hallie Wensky. And Laura Sinclair is Laura Makes Moves. Laura is quickly become one of my favorite people. She's a real estate agent, but she's she's almost like a real estate concierge. So you could literally reach out to her and it's a completely free service, but she vets out other real estate agents. So you don't need to have a real estate agent just for buying a place. You can also, if you're moving to a new city, you can reach out to real estate agents that can help you find rentals, right? They can tell you kind of where people, you know, that have like-minded interests like you hang out and live, and like what, you know, whatever your financial, you know, frame is on how much you want to spend a month. You know, they can help you find that, but it's really important to find a real estate agent that specializes in relocating people because they help you and handhold you differently than somebody is going to when they've never moved or they've lived that, you know, their whole life and they're just a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, because there is a difference. But her and I did an episode on relocation fatigue, and you know, when she mentioned it, I was like, because we had recorded prior, and we did a whole episode just about kind of like the basics of moving and things. But what was interesting is like when she posted about relocation fatigue, I was like, oh my gosh, we never articulated it, but that is a real thing. And a lot of like military people go through it when they know, like they can feel they're going to be relocated soon or transferred soon. A lot of corporate, you know, people, a lot of occupational therapists. Like I have an occupational therapist that's going to come on the podcast who travels all over the world. You guys, you need to find her Instagram. I will post it in the show notes, but she is, she just has like, it seems like the best life. Like she's an occupational therapist that travels, but she's also going to like Costa Rica and like Europe and like all these amazing places and surfing and doing so many cool things. But so, you know, some of the guests that I've had in season one, I'm so grateful that they were able, you know, that they were going to take a chance on coming onto my podcast because they, you know, like it's new, you know, and then who knows, sometimes people will put the work in and then not actually move forward and doing more seasons. And so that's something that I wanted to get all the spaz out of me in the first season. So I took the summer off and I've spent the summer interviewing. I've been doing a ton of research. I've got some really cool guests coming up. But yeah, if I could sum up season one, it was a ton of tech challenges. So like when I was interviewing Ali Wensky, the night before I set up all my equipment, I tested it out because I had come to Chicago for work. I still work a full-time job. I love my job. I have no intention of leaving. And so I get to travel all over the country with it. And they are the ones that relocated me. So I'm grateful for all the chances that they've given me to live all over the country and learn the things that I've learned that I can pass on to you. But I set up all my equipment, I tested it, the mics and everything, and I get there and nothing works. And I'm not even kidding you guys. We ended up doing a Zoom and from a different room. Like we were at her real estate agency and we had two different conference rooms. So we went and Zoomed. We were literally in the same place. So it was just ridiculous. Like tech challenges like that. Like I couldn't get my microphone to like, it felt like I felt like I was like in another room when I was talking, even though like I'm literally right in front of the mic and I've got my headphones on and I can hear me and it sounds great. But then we would put it on and I would send it to the editors and it would be so far away, or there'd be beeping in the background. Ali and I had to record, like the first time in person. The second time that we did it was like there was a beeping in the background. I mean, just so many tech challenges. But people were right. The advice that they gave me, like, you're going to screw up, you're going to have challenges, you're going to feel like a spaz. All of that happened in season 1. So I'm really excited to bring you season 2 because I feel a little bit more comfortable. I don't know if you can see, I am more comfortable here in the in this room. I mean, this room is lovely. I need to like have a sound booth like this, which I did order. So I ordered a sound booth, but it's like PVC pipes and moving blankets, basically. That I felt like kinship to the moving blankets, but I'm not sure how I'm going to set that up, but we'll see. So I am planning on recording both visually and audio. So we'll see. But the other thing that happened in the last season, like I ended up having to cut it short because I had some health issues. I mean, I built a house 2 years ago almost. And in the 2 years that I've lived in this house, I have had so many health challenges. I mentioned like my back being like rupturing discs in my back. And I had a tooth that I posted about, like you can go on my social and follow that journey. That was awful. But I do have the permanent tooth in now, so I don't feel like I'm talking with marbles in my mouth. And I can articulate better without with my tongue actually hitting my roof of my mouth, which, I couldn't do before. So lots of crazy stuff. So I'm that's in the rearview mirror. The dashboard in front of me looks really, really good. It's sunny. I need shades. It's so great. But so a couple of the guests that I've already interviewed, I want to just kind of talk through those and like what you can expect in season 2. So one, I have Christiana from the Happy Healthy Hustle podcast. She is lovely. Oh my gosh. And her and I have now become friends, and we meet every other week and just keep each other accountable on our podcast, talk about things that because we're both super into health and wellness and how food impacts your body, how you can use food as medicine. So we both have kind of that food and wellness piece of our, that's in my framework under robustness. That's basically her whole podcast is around like the principles of combining happiness and good health and kind of how you got there. But she moved from Germany to a small town, from Germany with her husband to this small town that he lived in. And then just realized it wasn't her jam, right? So she's a professor as well. And so they ended up moving to California, and she's a professor at Cal Poly. And I'm actually going to come and do a speaking engagement with her class, which I'm super excited about. We haven't nailed down dates yet, but I think sometime this fall I'm going to come out there. So little things like that we had talked about that have just kind of grown. I was on her podcast as well. But she's just such an inspiration. And just hearing her journey to move from Germany to America, and then even going back to visit Germany, I think that people that come from Europe or come from other countries it will resonate with them. I did mention that I want to do a segment with Jeremy from When Walls Talk, as well as my aunt, the coffee psychic. Her name is Jorianne. You can find her on Facebook. She is an amazing medium, psychic medium, and she's done some really cool things. She's been on TV shows. She, I think, is on a weekly radio show. She, does private one-on-one readings. But I live in an area that has had some interesting things happen. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and what happens if you move into a haunted house. I'm hoping to do that around the Halloween timeframe. So keep an ear out from that. I've got Edward Whitehouse from Top Notch Moving. We go through a whole Moving 101 segment. There's so many. I mean, we could have probably talked for 3 hours. So we're going to probably have more than one segment. But we did kind of the basics of terminology, what it means to move, the difference between a local move and an interstate move, which is a long distance move. We talked about some of the scams that we're seeing out there. And since then, I told them, just when you see a scam, send it my way. I want to hear it because I kind of want to build a naughty list. I don't know if that's going to get me in trouble with the moving industry, but I want to build a naughty list on people to stay away from because I hear a lot of things. And the guest that I'm going to talk about last is super exciting, and they're helping make all those scam artists go away. So I've got Edward from Top Notch Moving. I've got Kevin Bay Anderson. So Kevin is a friend of mine from high school. He was, like the All-American baseball, the captain of the baseball and team. He was, the quarterback of the football team. He's just like the extreme athlete. He was a former college athlete and professional athlete, but he owns a business now called Hybrid Performance, Hybrid Baseball, and that's in Peoria, Arizona. But he's moved around the country just as much as I have. So he's got his own moving stories and now like landing in Arizona and like really planting roots. He works with all levels of baseball players from like high school players. So originally, and to take a step back, when I first started this whole, Marriott's on the Move concept, I wanted it to be a TV show. And I still think it would make a great TV show. I've got so many ideas. But we were filming, those that know my brother, he's a filmmaker, he makes commercials, he does all kinds of different things, plus pet photography, which I freaking love. Like all my amazing photos of my dogs are all through him. But so we were filming and my cousin has a baseball player, his son is a baseball player at the time, I think he was in middle school and now he's in high school playing. And so we went out there to show and tour the facilities with him when they were just building, but now he's got a couple of years under his belt. But he literally trains baseball players from, like middle school all the way up to professional athletes that play for the MLB teams now. So we're going to talk a lot about health and fitness and kind of how you need to prepare physically for a move, just, things that you can do on the day to day. And then, some of his tips and tricks for moving. We've got Wade Swikel. Wade, he owns two College Brothers Moving out of Tampa, Florida. And we do talk about some basics of moving as well. But we really lean in on how to be a better consumer for moving companies, because I think that's just important. I mean, we want to make it a better experience for them, not just have them make it a good experience for us as a consumer. But the thing about Wade, he and his partner Chad, business partner Chad, they started this thing called Moving Titan Retreats. And so they're actually teaching other moving companies how to scale and how to create raving fans and, how to work well with local real estate agents. And, it's just such a neat concept. And I have been asked to speak at the conference. I'm super excited about that. When I do a keynote or some sort of a speaking engagement, it usually has an element of reframing your mindset, tips and tricks and social cues. We're going to talk a little bit about sales, because obviously I'm a sales leader in my full-time job, and I like to talk about, sales as a competency is really just a skill set, right? So you have to sharpen that sword and how you practice and the things that you can do to make it easier and not feel so salesy. So I'm going to talk about that, as well as like the experience and perspective of a consumer, because I think that's important for the moving companies to take that into their businesses and really teach the people that are going out and doing the estimates and going out and doing, the actual move, the physically like removal of stuff and transporting it to the new place, and kind of what that feels like as somebody that's moved as many times as I have, or somebody that's moving from the first time. I mean, I can remember very vividly my experiences, almost all of them. So we're going to talk to him about that, and we're going to probably have that before the retreat. So if somebody has a moving company and they want to scale, they can hear a little bit about, what that retreat is, because it's really incredible what they're doing. I've got Alex Baia, who wrote a book on Bloomingtons. I mean, I lived in Bloomington, Illinois. He has stack ranked all the Bloomingtons in America. We had the funniest conversation here at the Podcast Movement happy hour. He's a humor writer for the New Yorker, McSweeney's, Austin Monthly. He's out of Austin. He's written for Slackjaw, and he has a podcast called You But Better. He's just a total trip. I don't even know how else to describe him. I mean, like the entire time we were talking, I was laughing because one, it's just a funny concept, but two, he's just a funny guy, and he's done improv. He studied in Chicago for a little while. He did the IO intensive out in Chicago. I studied at Second City and the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York when I lived there. So we had that whole, there's a concept in improv called yes and, where you whatever that person says, you kind of top it. So you say yes, and then you top it or give a suggestion, and that keeps the bit going. But we were kind of yes anding each other at the at the happy hour, and I mean we were just cracking up. It was just such a funny conversation. So I can't wait to record with him. And then I have Dr. Charles Corprew, who's the host of What's Your Revolution podcast. They've got like 170 episodes. I met him here at the conference as well. He's just super passionate and personal, and he is very much into global transformation, kind of not the mar of what's happening in cities across America today. He's got his doctorate in psychology. So he's, from a biological perspective, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what happens to your body when you transition, because it is a form of trauma. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, there is a stack rank that they say it's second only to divorce, which is crazy if you think about it. Like it really is. You're taking all the triggers that you could potentially have from childhood. I mean, it could be something as crazy as being homeless at one point in time to now your parents are millionaires to, just moving for tough situations like divorce or a death in the family, or moving for great things can still be a little bit traumatic. So there's a lot of things. I've been studying a lot about trauma right now. I'm reading the book, The Body Keeps Score. If you need a book, it's incredible. They really talk a lot about kind of what happens in your brain, the loops that you keep playing out, the habits that you have because of this trauma and how to break them. And so I think that's an incredibly important conversation that I wanted to have with Dr. Charles because, he's just interesting in his perspective on what's happening in the world. I think you guys will really, really enjoy it. And I am planning still on doing the shorties. One of the things I learned about YouTube, and I think it'll be relevant for Reels and TikTok and things like that, is that, shorties are some of the most, watched episodes on YouTube. So a shorty is something that's 5 minutes or under. I think the sweet spot is that 3 to 4 minute mark where I can give just like a tip or a trick or, tell you about a scam to avoid or questions to ask when you're talking to movers. And so I can do those, but then I can also put it across TikTok because there's a lot of people that will find a podcast via TikTok and kind of listening in and seeing what resonates and then popping over and checking that out. So however you consume podcasts, I'm going into this next season with a lot of inspiration from what I learned here at the podcast movement. So it's going to be great, but probably I have two guests that I'm super stoked about. One that's confirmed, and we're doing the interview mid-September, which I'm super excited about. It is with somebody, I don't know who. It could be a manager or it could be Pete Buttigieg. I don't know, from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And if you don't know who they are responsible for your safety on the road when it comes to trucks. And this means, any transporting of moving goods or household goods is what they call it in the industry, is considered a mover. And so there are tons of scams out there, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about. But moving can be an absolutely exhilarating life change. But when you have that new beginning and that new opportunity, a lot of times you don't think about booking your mover or getting estimates or doing any of that work up front because you think, oh my gosh, there's a million movers. I could just pick one and I'll get my stuff. But really what they're doing, and this is something that we're going to talk about in a message that I cannot wait to amplify about what they're doing, is they have this, it's called Operation Protect Your Move. And essentially what they're doing is going out, because there's a lot of brokers out there and scammers. And what they're doing is they're pulling in federal agents. So they just had 36 federal agents go out and be basically secret shoppers. And what'll happen, so just to give you a little preview on one of the scams that's out there. So when you say you want a quote from a moving company, there's a lot of lead generating websites out there. So you will put, your name, your email address, your phone number, and then, I've got a 3-bedroom house with 2 baths, no basement, and a garage. And so they will call you. And once you put your phone number into one of these like lead generating tools for the moving industry, you're going to get a million calls. I'm not even kidding. Like they're going to come out of the woodwork. Some are robocalls, some are legit companies, and some are actual scammers. And so what'll happen is, and you never want to have somebody give you a quote over the phone, because that's not how it works for legitimate movers. You're either doing a virtual tour of your house or they're physically coming on site to your home. And so one of the things that they'll do in the scam is they will kind of walk you through every room, and you're going to tell them, whether you're bringing your washer or dryer and your refrigerator, and, like how many books do you have? And they'll spend a lot of time. These scams are very sophisticated. And then what they'll do is they will, they'll ask you what moving date you want. You'll give them a moving date. And then they'll sometimes ask you for a deposit. And so when you have that deposit, they have your money, right? Sometimes they will take it one step further and actually show up to your house and pick up all your stuff, and then you'll never see it again. And so what the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is responsible for is, one, getting the scammers off the road, but there's thousands. So like Operation Protect Your Move that they just did a couple, like I think it was like a month and a half ago or something, when they actually first did it, and then they wrote about it afterwards. They pulled 60 brokers off the road, brokers and scammers out of the industry. And some of the things that you can look for is whether they have like a Department of Transportation number, the FMCSA number that they, you have to have in order to be a legit moving household company. There's just a lot of things that they did, but they pulled 60 of these companies off the market. But there's thousands, right? So the work that they're doing is super important. There's a lot of things to consider in a move, and I think that people don't spend enough time finding their movers themselves, because that is all of your stuff. But we're going to talk about just the expectations, what happens if you get scammed, because they have you can file a claim with them, and somebody will actually look at that claim form. Ways to get a hold of them, ways to avoid, being scammed in the first place. If you listen to my podcast, you're going to hear a lot about that in the upcoming season, because there's just so much. Unfortunately, if those people spent all the time that they spend scamming people on making the world a better place, I think we'd all enjoy our time there. But that's, not what actually happened. So anyway, I can't wait for season 2. Like I said, I'm trying to see if I missed anything here. This is not even all of my guests right now. I'm still talking to people and still finding new people that I want to interview. So I know my season 1 had 13 episodes with the trailer. The next season, I don't know, I could have 20. I'm going to go from September. It's going to be released sometime in September. I'm still kind of working on dates because I have to get all this stuff to the editors and get it back still. But the dates is probably going to be September through December. I'm probably going to take the holidays off. It's also my birthday is the day after Christmas. So I like to, take some time off, get some family time in there. And then, who knows, I might be moving soon as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am very grateful for the time to record here. I thank you to, huge thank you to Yap Media for providing this sound booth. This is completely free. Hala Taha has a podcast called Young and Profiting. She is the CEO of this company. Their website is www.youngandprofiting.com if you want to follow them and subscribe. She was, responsible for making this all happen for me to be able to sit here and record and listen in. Box recording. They have provided all the equipment. These are like Rode microphones, which are amazing. I've got lights here. I've got a camera here. This background is super cool, and I wore a shirt that matched. I didn't mean to, but if you're watching this on YouTube, that gives me the gives you the visual of what I'm doing and how I'm doing and how I'm recording. So, but thank you so much to anybody that's listening. If you want to support this podcast, there's a couple ways to do it. You can get on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts that you listen to the show, and write a review. Even a few words. I mean, I hope it's good. I hope you've had a good experience and you have positive things to say. A 5-star obviously is going to get me higher in rankings. And when you get somebody that subscribes and downloads the episodes, so downloading and subscribing are, listening and downloading are two different things. So you have to hit that plus sign to subscribe and listen in. but writing a review really, really helps. The other way you can support my business or keep in touch and learn more is through my Monday mailer. So if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, you can go in the menu, and I have a spot that says mailer. You can join the mailer, and every Monday I send you everything from different themed emails. So like right now, as I'm recording this, and I'll have it on my blog, I'm doing a Decluttering Your Life themed mailing series, and that's going through the FRED framework and the different areas and how you can declutter your finances and your mental and physical health, how you can declutter your environment, because obviously I'm a certified professional organizer, and decluttering is my jam. But then how you can declutter your dreams as well, and kind of like figure out what's no longer serving you, what's been holding over your shoulders for a long time that you can get rid of, and then like taking it all and then giving you a baseline to start your roving journey. So when you do sign up for the Monday mailer, I have an entire workbook that I send you. It's called the FRED Freebie. It's a FRED framework workbook that you can start kind of your own journey, right? So you get on there, we talk about, getting your dream down and niching it to a place where it's an actual physically written out dream, right? And that could be anything from I want to move to London, or I want to move to San Diego, or I want to move to South Carolina or North Carolina. That's where I live, in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's, a lot of people are moving here into Raleigh as well. So whatever that dream is, and then I kind of help you reverse engineer into your finances, your robustness, your mental physical health. I help you start a checklist for what you want in your new ecosystem, right? So what do you have in your old community in town that you want to have in your new community in town, but also more things so you can thrive and really be happy in your career or your hobby or whatever it is that you want to do to make a good work-life balance. What's neat is that when you coach with me, so I do have a coaching program. I do one-on-one coaching. I only have 6 spots per month. It is a 6-month program. But in the one-on-one coaching, we take, it's a requirement for you to do a couple things. One, do Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies quiz, because that's how I can tell how you respond best to being supported and accountability. And then second, I have you go through the FRED framework, the workbook that you get for free when you join the Monday mailer. And we literally go through that together, and then we get even more granular. I mean, I can get somebody down to a 1 to 2 mile radius on where their absolute ideal place to live is, and where in that city is. And part of that is because, to give you an example, when I lived in New York, I lived on the Upper East Side. I had a roommate. Her name was Lauren. All the stuff that I wanted to do, though, was on the West Side, and my friends were on the West Side. So whenever I wanted to go, do Pilates or, see my friends, I was on the bus for a couple hours that day. And, it's nice that they have a great transportation system with the subway and buses, but you think of New York as a walking city, and it's not going to take you an hour or two to get somewhere within the city, and it does. So being able to kind of niche down to where exactly you want to live, I think personally, I'd rather pay a couple $100 more in rent to be centrally located. So like when I'm done with work, because, you think you work 8 to 10 hours a day, you've got another, 18 hours or 16 hours to waste. You want to do things that are fun and do things that light you up and be around people that inspire you. So I personally think it's super important to kind of really get your ecosystem tight and your support system. How are you going to find friends? How are you going to find, your people that support you in an emergency? So we talk a lot about that, but then we also talk about getting back to your dreams. And is it even still the dream? I mean, my goal is that if you go and do a city POC in the city of your dreams and you decide that you don't love it, it's not that you could pick a new city to move to or, start that dream over. But I really want you to be able to be content where you are. I mean, I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, I've been dreaming about moving to San Diego for 30 years. And then I went and visited and I spent 3 weeks there. And I realized it's an amazing place to visit and I loved it, but I don't want to live there. And luckily I didn't waste all that money moving and all that stress of packing up my stuff and, dishing out first month's rent, last month's rent, and a deposit, or buying a house that, I can't turn around and sell for 2 years because I'll get hit with capital gains. Like, that's the kind of pain that I want you to avoid, but I want you to have the true loving experience of when you find the place that you're meant to be, you really can thrive as a human being and, build a support system and a community, because ultimately that is so important. So those 4 key areas, those are what I focus on in my coaching and my podcast. And I really think that from a planning perspective, if you can do that too, we literally can take you from like having that dream of one day moving to Texas, one day moving to this place. Like, I want to take you from one day to day one of that journey. And if I can get you there, to me, my work is done. But I want to support you. I want to keep you accountable in your goals. And I want to make sure that you are thriving in your life, in your career, and not in this like crazy state of languish that everybody seems to be in right now when they're not in a good place mentally, physically, financially, near family, all that stuff. So I guess to tie up this and a kickoff season 2, I'm going to ask you, is it one day or is it day one? Thank you so much.
Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. In making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, marriottsonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.